Bien, pues aquí estamos en Nintendo. Bienvenidos, o más bien dicho, hola a todo el mundo mundial, planetario, global, eh, estelar, universal, cósmico, a Nintendo. Voy a practicar y mejorar ese intro. Pues como quedamos, creo que espero hoy terminar este, este juego. Ya no más faltan tres o cuatro ramitas o historias en este caso. Y pues ya lo terminaremos. A ver qué tal. Bueno, pues sigamos. Nos quedamos en el cuartito del gansito y creo que pues vamos para allá.
Mom spent months searching for my brother. Then she sealed the doors. Whatever Milton had found in the house, Mom didn't want it getting out. Mom definitely blamed Edie, but I think Louis blamed himself. After he graduated, he just spent more and more time in his room. Until Mom got him a job at the cannery. Everyone always told me to stay out of Louis's room. Except Louis.
A ver, hay un trofeo que supuestamente tengo que quedarme aquí hasta que salgan comentarios o música o algo así. O la voz de alguien. Vamos a ver si es cierto. Que por cierto ya perdí varios trofeos que podía haber hecho. Pero pues como no me fijé. Vamos a darle un minuto, a ver. Dudo que tenga que ser tan largo. Bueno, creo que ya le di más de un minuto. No sale nada. Ahí veremos. Bueno, vámonos. chingón. Columpito. Si le gustaban las actividades extremas a este vato. El Lewis. Oh, pues.
Lewis's room smelled very, very familiar. That part of him lived on.
San Juan Ale. ¿De dónde vas? Es que quería voltearme. Super Nintendo. Nintendo Stations. Play Nintendo.
Lewis and I spent a lot of time playing games together, but he was surprisingly bad at them. He died a lot.
Como yo. Así somos los buenos. Malos para los videojuegos. Yo lo veía más grande el cuartito.
He was so proud of being Indian. I think for him, it was a way to be something other than just a Finch.
A huevo, es mejor ser indio que gusano. Y no estaba orgulloso de ser marihuano, de ser motorolo, de ser toncho.
Dear Mrs. Finch, as Lewis's psychiatrist, I can understand your desire for an explanation. As I see it, the trouble began in January, shortly after we convinced your son to seek treatment for substance abuse. Newly sober, I believe Lewis first noticed the monotony of his daily life. He kept working at the cannery, but he withdrew part of himself. In our sessions, I saw the same behavior. His mind began to wander.
Oh, okay. Tengo que hacer todo el trabajo al mismo tiempo.
I asked him to describe it. He said he started small, imagining a labyrinth. He'd feel his way about. Then something moved. Bats. And toads.
Sapos.
And things that have not names. He knew it was all in his head. But he took it very seriously. I had hoped he'd find himself. But he found something more. I worried about him then. Daydreaming at the cannery. I spoke with his boss. but he said Lewis had become a model employee. Methodical, tireless, focused. Like a whole new Lewis. So I let him go on. I even encouraged him. It seemed very promising at first.
Qué chido este jueguito, porque no hicieron uno así. Bien, en este tipo, este modelo.
He told me he'd made a new friend. On the edge of a city he named Lewis Topia. He built the city up slowly, brick by brick. Then he made musicians. And songs for them to play. He talked about starting a band. And he was always humming something. Every day his imagination grew stronger. He no longer spoke at the cannery. But his chopping was as reliable as ever. Then one day it struck him that all the cheering crowds, even the stones under his feet, were all in his imagination. So he could do whatever he wished. He held an election for mayor. And he won. They begged him to stay, but his mind was already wandering. It became a game for him. He'd conquer a city, then immediately push on. New Louisville. St. Louis. He started drifting away from our reality. Minneapolis, until one day he forgot to go home from the cannery. Even as his mother pleaded with him, part of Lewis kept sailing on. In Lewisburg, he heard rumors of a handsome queen. The queen was on her own quest for sinister serpents. He followed the sound of her electric sitar.
Whoops.
His chase led him to a golden palace east of the sun and west of the moon. Even then, his logic remained sound. He knew the world was all in his imagination. But he was so proud of having created it. In his own eyes, he'd become something greater than a king. For someone who'd never known success in the real world, I think it was overwhelming. And then it struck him that the real Lewis was not the one chopping salmon, but the one climbing the steps of a golden palace. My imagination is as real as my body, he told me. It was hard to argue with him.
Bueno, pues así son los motoros, bien imaginativos. Les gusta irse a sus mundos. Por eso la toman, por eso son bien
Began to forget the world we know.
marihuanos, bien tonchos. Aunque el toncho es algo diferente, pero es lo mismo, ¿no?
I think it pained him to remember Lewis, the cannery worker. He began to despise the man with a royal contempt.
No estás haciendo el trabajo bien, vato. Si no lo hacía yo.
I still thought I could save him. Even after he said he was being crowned king over all the lands of wonder. The palace would be packed with his companions. Including the wise Calico who'd insisted on inviting me. His queen waited, holding his crown. There was only one thing left to do. Bend down his head.
Guillotina.
And the rest I think you know. Mrs. Finch, your son was a kind man who will be missed by all of us who knew him.
My brother was really cool. I wish you could have met him.
Sí. Se cayó dormido. Su imaginación lo llevó a la muerte, a los difuntos. No, 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 no. Allá no, acá. ¿Cómo eres onza?
On the way back from Lewis's funeral, my mom told me to start packing. She waited until the day before we left to tell Edie.
Típica mujer. Se van sin avisar.
I'm not sure if she wanted to make it easier or harder.
Nos abandonan así. No que a mí me hayan abandonado, pero soy hombre.
I wish we'd stayed.
Y he conocido a varios, bueno, tengo varios seres queridos que se les han hecho.
But I understand why we left.
Y no solo eso, les echan la policía aparte. ¿Por qué hacen eso? Si algún día hay una mujer viendo esto, explíquenos, ¿por qué hacen eso? ¿En qué les sirve?
My mom ended up leaving everything behind.
Oh, este no tenía... No, es el único que está abierto.
What happened that night had been coming for a long time. Maybe it should have come sooner. But it had to end one way or another.
All that's left now is to tell you about that last night.
La última noche de Edith Finch. ¿Qué es un finch? ¿Es un pájaro? ¿Es un gorrión? No. Es el pájaro que estudió Darwin, que sacó su locura de la evolución. Y digo locura porque hasta este punto no se ha comprobado si hay algo de evolución, pero ¿qué tanta? Es una teoría, y una teoría, el mismo nombre lo dice.
That whole last day, Edie just watched us pack and didn't say a word. Until supper, when she raised her glass and said,
"To our final night together, and all our final nights apart."
Grandma, you know what I said about alcohol. Some of your medications are very
Edith,
specific.
I left a present for you in the hallway. Why don't you go open it? The grown-ups have to argue now.
I'm sorry, you're right. We're all leaving tomorrow. Let's just enjoy our last...
I'm not leaving.
Edith, you're excused.
The power had been shut off that morning, but Edie always had plenty of candles. When my mom sealed the library, I don't think she knew about the other entrance. Or that Edie had a key to it.
Ok, no es que no es Eddie, yo pensé que era ella. Edie, más bien dicho.
thing you're afraid of isn't going to end when you leave the house.
Exacto. Desafortunadamente ya cuando están viejitas agarran la onda.
Edith has a right to know these stories.
My children are dead because of your stories! I think it's best if Edith and I leave tonight. We'll have the nursing home send a van for you in the morning. Okay?
Dear Edith, there's so many stories I wish I could tell you, but there's only time for one. This is about what happened on the night you were born. That night, the tide went way, way out.
Tsunami, surimi, un surimi, dice la mensa chichona aquella, de plástico, aquella mujer de plástico.
It was the first and last time I ever saw the old house aground.
Como todas.
There'd been an earthquake out in the middle of the ocean. They called it the lowest tide in 1,000 years. God, it smelled awful. You know, I've seen that house every day of my life. But I never thought I'd go back to it. When the fog rolled in, I lost my way. I got turned around. For a while, I wandered. I started seeing things. Things I'd forgotten had ever existed.
Como su cama.
But when I saw them, they felt like old friends. That night, a lot of things came back to me. Or maybe I came back to them. Things I can't explain, but that I need you to try and...
Edith, what are you doing in here?
It's mine.
Edith!
Mom, you're gonna rip it! Let go! I kicked and screamed, but Mom dragged me to the car. I never saw Great-Grandma Edie again. The next morning, the van came to pick her up, but she was already gone. After that, we moved around a lot.
Nos movimos mucho nada más.
We both tried to make the best of it.
Todos hacemos esto. Yo pensé que yo era el único que hace esas mamadas cada que voy en el carro. Aún lo hago.
A few years went by. My mom didn't like to talk about it. But she started getting sick a lot. The rest happened pretty quickly. She got better for a while, and then she didn't. And then I was alone. The last Finch left alive. Until I found out about you. I'm still not sure what to tell you about all this. If we lived forever, maybe we'd have time to understand things. But as it is, I think the best we can do is try to open our eyes.
Open your eyes,
And appreciate
vato.
how strange and brief all of this is.
Oh no, voy a nacer.
This journal was supposed to be for you. But now I hope you'll never see it.
La Panuchus. Oh, la Panuchus.
I just want to meet you and tell you all these stories myself. But I guess if you're reading this now, things didn't work out that way.
Ew. Entonces, ¿qué pasó?
This is where your story begins. I'm sorry I won't be there to see it. It's a lot to ask, but I don't want you to be sad that I'm gone. I want you to be amazed that any of us ever had a chance to be here at all. Good luck.
Triste. Bueno. No. ¿Por qué tenía que salir eso? las bolitas de McDonald's y de Chuck E. Cheese's. Como las extraño. Niña violenta. Todos estos riquitos con sus juguetes, con sus compus. Yo contra apenas tuve tele. Y si quería jugar carritos usaba pilas de las gordas. ¿5 años? Oh, perdón. Entonces, ¿qué pasó con Kay? Y Sanjay. Y Sven. Desde la opción repetir una historia está disponible. Selecciona Edit para jugar desde este principio. Bueno, pues aquí termina esto. A ver cuánto duró. No, ni media hora. Pues ni modo. Aquí termina esta historia. Buen juego, si me gustó. Triste final. Pero pues era de esperarse, no todo el mundo aquí se muere. Me encanta este tipo de juegos. Y este tipo de historias. Esas historias idiotas de finales felices y que se casan. Y que se van y que felices para siempre, como las odio. Odio ese tipo de historias, que son la mayoría desafortunadamente. Por eso que ya no veo películas y mucho menos novelas. A la ñonga con las novelas. Es más, la novela que más me gustó fue una de hace unos años, donde mueren muchos. Y resulta que creo que la que mata, se agarra matando a gente, a los personajes, es creo que la esposa o la amante, no me acuerdo. Bueno, ni sé de qué les explico. Pero sí, pues bueno, estuvo chido. Si le doy un 8. Me gustó la historia, corta, bien contada. Gráficas también tan buenas, pues estamos hablando de un juego viejo. En aquellos tiempos debe haber estado mejor. No le doy un 10 por ciertas cositas. Esas, esos simbolismos, esas... ¿cómo se le llama? Esas historias que tienen que ver con cosas que yo odio. Como lo militar, las pistolas, las banderas, ya saben cuál hay quien decirlas. Especialmente la de este país, de los usanos, y es por eso que yo le bajo puntos. Pero bueno, entiendo que se trata de una historia de un usano, o una usana en este caso. Pues obviamente va a haber estas cosas, pistolas, banderas, militar, así son. Todos mis amigos y conocidos que tengo que son de este país, todos tienen eso. algún familiar militar. Yo tengo familiares militares y ni siquiera soy de aquí. Y amigos militares también. Y es de ellos que empecé a reconocer lo horrible que es eso, y lo malo que es, y lo malvado que es, lo maldito que es servir y ser de ese tipo. Pero bueno, así son ellos. Y ellos lo entienden, ellos, repito, ellos fueron los que me empezaron a abrir los ojos. Porque antes de eso, pues no, yo no veía a lo militar ni mucho menos a los soldados como malos. Pero por ellos y otras razones empecé a descubrir lo malo que es ser eso, ser uno de ellos. Es el peor tipo de persona que puede ser en el mundo. Gracias a ellos hay tanto mal, tanta muerte, tanto, ¿cómo se dice cuando que no hay felicidad en el mundo? Pero bueno, acabo aquí con mi queja, con mi, ¿cómo se dice? Con mi, pues no sé, pero bueno, sí, buen juego, lo recomiendo, corto, fácil y pues entretenido. Sí me gustó. Un 8 mínimo. Pues bueno, gracias. Eso fue todo con los finches, los pajaritos. Y bueno, ahí nos vemos al rato en Hitman o a lo mejor también juego los dos si me da tiempo. El de The Witcher, yo no me acuerdo cuáles juegos estoy jugando. Bueno, aquí por lo menos. Pues ahí se ven. Y si no, ya saben por qué. Gracias.